Thank you very much, Father Guan, for introducing these wonderful subjects of compassion and communication.
多謝關神父正話介紹呢個慈悲同埋溝通呢兩個好重要嘅題目。
I just want to add another C to it, the 3 C's that are central to peaceful living.
我而家想加第3個 C， 即係communication 溝通 ，compassion 慈悲，第3個 C 係可以讓我哋有一個平靜嘅生活。
And that is communication, compassion, and community.
呢第3個 C 就係 community， 係一個共同體。
I think these 3 C's are central to really living our life in this world.
我覺得呢3個 C 字咧，溝通、慈悲同埋共同體啦，係我哋喺呢個世界裏邊生活嘅係一個3個好重要嘅元素。
Compassion, as is common to all religious beliefs and all human activities, is quite central to our living.
慈悲係唔同嘅宗教信仰同埋人類活動一個好共通嘅一個元素。
And communication also is something very central to our communicating, that is connecting with people and being alive in this place.
咁溝通咧都係我哋一個社群或者係一個共同體裏邊生活一個好重要嘅元素，因為佢哋將溝通將我哋聯繫起嚟。
And then of course, community is where we live our lives.
呢一個共同體或者呢個社群就係我哋生活所在嘅地方。
Because no man is an island, and none of us are alone, though we are born just alone, we do not live alone.
雖然我哋係單獨咁樣出世，但係其實冇人會孤單咁樣生活落去。
So most of our struggles in life also comes through this 3rd C, which is the community.
喺我哋生命裏邊最重要嘅掙扎都係嚟自呢第3個，就係呢一個共同體或者呢個群體。
How to live connected with one another.
個問題就係如何能夠互相連結地咁樣生活。
How to understand each other and our community.
點樣互相了解同埋了解我哋呢一個社群。
And therefore, it is important to understand what compassion is, and it is important to understand what communication is, but it is also important to understand what our community is.
所以我哋明白咩叫慈悲，咩叫溝通係好重要。同樣地，明白呢一個社群或者呢個共同體都係一樣好重要。
So true communication builds community.
真正嘅溝通建立呢一個共同體。
And true compassion brings together a community.
真正嘅慈悲係讓呢一個共同體可以體現，可以連結。
So these 3 C's, compassion, communication, and community, are intimately connected to each other.
咁佢呢3個 C 咧係緊密咁樣聯繫埋一齊，慈悲、溝通同埋共同體。
So as we saw that compassion is something inborn in us, it's in all of us.
咁正話我哋都見到啦，關神父有提到慈悲啦係我哋出生以來已經有嘅，我哋生而有之嘅。
It is only sometimes it is blocked by so many other things in our life.
只不過有時喺生命裏邊有啲嘢令佢窒礙咗。
And communication is to connect with each other, but it is also to remove these blocks that are created by our communication, so that compassion may flow from our hearts.
溝通咧係將我哋互相連結埋一齊啦，但係同時都係去清除呢一啲障礙，我哋溝通嘅障礙，或者呢個慈悲嘅個障礙，令到呢個真正嘅慈悲可以出翻嚟。
So when we, so I'm going also to talk about communication as nonviolent communication.
我一陣都會講呢個非暴力溝通裏邊嘅溝通。
A way of understanding communication in a very special way.
係非暴力溝通係一種理解溝通嘅一種特別嘅方法。
A way of understanding ourselves and others through a very specific way of communicating and connecting.
係一種好特別嘅方法去理解我哋自己，同埋理解別人，令到我哋可以溝通。
So this compassion that we develop in our life, or allow this compassion to flow in our life, we need to really clear our way to communicate, to connect.
如果我哋要喺生命裏邊培育呢一個慈悲，我哋真係要揾出一個方法，清理一啲障礙，令到我哋可以真正咁樣溝通。
Marshall, whom I met many years ago, who really gave this wonderful gift to me and to the whole world, called nonviolent communication.
好多年前我遇到 Marshall， 佢就俾咗呢一個咁奇妙嘅禮物俾我，同埋俾呢個世界。佢俾我哋嘅禮物就係非暴力溝通。
And he was a therapist. He studied psychology, clinical psychology.
佢係一個治癒者啦，佢係呢一個臨床心理學家。
But he was trying, in his profession as a psychotherapist, he found that he was not able to really connect with the people.
Sorry， 佢係一個心理治療師，但係佢作為一個心理治療師呢個專業，佢覺得佢都唔能夠真真正正去治療別人。
His purpose of trying to diagnose people, to understand people, to analyze people, he was finding it difficult to really connect with people.
佢發覺佢目標咧係佢呢個專業嘅目標就係要去分析人哋啦，去診斷人哋啦，診斷嘅病人啦。但係無論如何喺呢個專業裏邊都教唔到佢點樣去真真正正同人哋連結。
So his wonderful profession of a psychotherapist, which is supposed to really help us to understand each other, was not helping him.
咁呢一個心理治療嘅呢一個專業，本來係令到我哋可以去互相理解連結，但係好似係幫唔到佢。
So he realized that just by analyzing and diagnosing, you cannot understand people, and especially you cannot help them to heal. 咁
佢明白到咧，單係分析同埋診斷對方咧，係冇可能幫我哋去明白對方，同埋令到對方咧係治癒嘅。
So he resigned from his job and was looking for a way how to connect with people.
咁於是佢就辭一份工啦，離開呢個專業啦，去揾一個同人哋真正可以連結嘅方法。
And he always said that only if I can connect to this person whom I am analyzing and diagnosing, only then I will be able to really heal this person.
咁佢話喺我面前嘅，我想分析同埋診斷佢嘅人，我一定要能夠同佢連結咧，我先至可以真真正正去幫佢治癒。
He said that he was working as a taxi driver when he resigned from this professional job, and he was looking for a way how to connect with people.
咁佢辭咗份工啦，唔做呢一個心理治療師啦，佢就走去揸的士。咁佢成一段時間咧，佢就去揾一啲方法，點樣去真真正正同人哋連結到咧。
And then he found this wonderful gift of nonviolent communication, a way to connect with one another.
咁時間過去，佢就慢慢揾到呢一個美妙嘅禮物，就係非暴力溝通，係一種能夠同人哋連結嘅一種方法。
And in this connection, actually, only when you really connect the compassion that is the healing life that could flow into each other.
咁有呢一個連結之後咧，呢個慈悲啦，呢一個治癒啦、治療啦，之後呢個生命就真真正正可以流動啦。
And then he found connecting with people, you need to have a proper communication model.
咁佢揾到一樣嘢咧，就係會發現咧，同人哋連結，要同人哋連結嘅話咧，就要有一個正確嘅一個連結嘅模式
which is a non-judgmental awareness of each other.
咁呢一個連結嘅模式就係非判斷嘅一種嘅連結嘅模式。
So he devised these 4 steps, wonderful 4 steps that really helped him to connect with people.
咁佢後來就發展咗4個步驟嚟幫助人與人之間可以連結。
And he found it that this simple way of connecting is more helpful to heal people than all the diagnosis and all that analysis of the others.
咁佢發現咧，呢個咁簡單嘅連結嘅方法咧，係比以往佢學嘅診斷啊、分析啊等等嘅方法咧，係更加直接、更加有效去療癒別人。
So communication for Marshall that helped most was what he calls the nonviolent communication.
咁佢發覺最有幫助嘅溝通嘅模式就係呢個非暴力嘅溝通模式。
The 4 simple steps of connecting to another person.
就係呢4個好簡單嘅同人哋連結嘅步驟。
And in this connection, he found that the flow of energy, the flow of compassion becomes easily accessible.
咁跟住呢幾個步驟咧，佢發現能量嘅流動啦、慈悲嘅流動咧，就變得好容易啦，好就手啦。
So the compassion in nonviolent communication is nothing other than the empathy.
咁其實非暴力溝通裏邊嘅所謂慈悲，就係一種同理心。
Being able to be present to each other.
係互相之間係能夠真正咁樣一齊係臨在。
And being able to be present to oneself.
同自己係真正咁樣安住或者係臨在。
Which is also self-empathy and empathy.
咁即係話係自我嘅同理心同埋同理心。
But this empathy and self-empathy is not always accessible to us.
咁可惜呢一種同理心或者係自我同理，唔係經常我哋都可以接觸到嘅。
That is why we need what the 3rd C, which is the community.
咁所以我哋就需要我正話講嘅第三個 C 就係群體啦，或者係共同體。
So all of us are aware there are sometimes when we are not present to ourselves.
我哋會有時我哋會見到咧，如果我哋對自己都唔清晰咁樣存在咧。
When we are overwhelmed by our emotions,
當我哋 sorry, you go on, Father.
We are unable to be present to ourselves.
當我哋俾我哋嘅情緒係征服咗之後嘅時候咧，我哋不能夠咧係好清楚咁樣同自己一齊。
These are the times that we really need the community to guide us, help us, to be with us.
喺呢個時候，我哋就真係好需要呢一個群體同我哋一齊，同埋俾我哋一個指引。
So we see that these three C's, that compassion, communication, and community, are intimately connected to each other.
咁所以呢三個 C 咧，慈悲啦、溝通啦，同埋共同體啦，或者社群咧，係互相之間好緊密咁樣聯繫住嘅。
These are intertwined and interdependent concepts in our lives.
佢哋係互相依賴、互相連結嘅三個元素。
Communication connects the community and brings it together.
溝通係將個社群連接埋一齊。
And compassion brings the community as one unit.
慈悲係令到呢一個社群成為一體。
That is able to unite, that is able to work together, live together, and be a force together.
咁樣呢個社群就可以團結埋一齊咁樣工作生活。
So these are the three important elements in our life that we need to pay attention to.
咁呢三個就係我哋生命之中三個好重要嘅元素，我哋一定要留意佢哋。
And in a community, the central element in a community is what you call compassion or empathy or presence.
咁一個社群嘅最重要嘅元素，根本嘅元素就係慈悲。
So the nonviolent communication is not just a method to speak or to listen, but it is also a way to live our life to its fullness.
咁所以非暴力溝通咧，唔係單單係點樣去講説話啦，或者點樣去聽人哋講説話啦，而係我哋點樣可以真真正咁樣喺生命裏邊真真正正活出呢一個生命。
So to be able to live together, we need this communication and also compassion.
點樣真正能夠生活埋一齊？咁如果需要生活在一起嘅時候咧，我哋係需要呢一個慈悲同埋compassion and
this communication that brings compassion into our life.
呢一種生活咧，係我哋能夠將慈悲引入我哋嘅生活裏邊。
And this living in community is precisely helps us also to live in compassion. It also helps us to truly communicate.
咁呢一種喺社群裏邊嘅生活咧，係令到我哋可以喺慈悲裏邊生活，同埋我哋能夠真正咁樣互相溝通連結咁樣去生活。
So when we look at these three elements of compassion, communication, and community,
如果我哋睇清楚呢三個元素，即係溝通啦、慈悲啦，同埋呢一個社群啦，
we see how they are truly connected to each other.
我哋見到佢哋3個元素點樣真正可以真會連埋一齊。
Just cultivation of one, how it cultivates all the other two.
當我哋培育其中一個元素嘅時候，我哋同時都培育緊另外2個元素。
So to be able to be present, which is compassion, which is empathy.
臨在嘅意思就係有呢一個慈悲，同埋有呢一個同理心。
We said that we need the community sometimes.
有啲時候，我哋話我哋係需要呢個社群。
But it also, we are aware that community also sometimes creates the problems in our lives.
我哋需要呢個社群，但係同時我哋都知道有啲時候就係呢個社群幫我哋嘅生命製造一啲問題出嚟。
So they say, for instance, when you have people in a community, there is always 1 or 2 persons that you find extremely difficult to live with.
咁譬如有時喺一個群體裏邊，我哋發現有1個或者2個人咧係好難相處嘅。
So what you try to do is try to eliminate those persons from your community.
咁我哋就嘗試好簡單啦，將呢2個好難相處嘅人咧係清除。
Or you try to avoid that person from your community.
或者喺群體裏邊見到佢就避啦。
Because they are the source of your trouble, according to your perspective.
因為從我哋個角度去睇，呢2個人咧就係我哋嘅呢啲問題嘅來源。
So that's why we need what we call communication.
咁喺呢個時候咧就需要溝通啦。
Where you need to learn how to communicate with that person.
咁呢個時候，我哋就要學習點樣同呢1個或者2個好麻煩嘅人咧去溝通。
Learn how to be present to this person.
學習點樣能夠同佢哋真真正正咁樣係喺埋一齊相處，臨在。
So these 3 elements, as we live in community, comes out every day bigger and bigger and more difficult, sometimes more easy and more guiding principles.
咁呢3個元素喺一個社群嘅生活裏邊咧，有時會覺得好困難，有時咧我哋就見到啦，佢帶引緊我哋呢個社群嗰個生活。
And there is the story of a person who was having a community of spiritual learners.
咁呢個有個故事啦，就係有一個群體係一啲靈性嘅學習者嘅群體。
Where people come together to live as a community and learn spirituality, how to live their spiritual life.
咁呢個社群咧就係啲人走埋一齊去學習點樣可以收集呢個靈性啦，點樣去過一個靈性嘅生活啦。
So one of them became a real nuisance for everyone else.
咁有一個人咧就經常咧係為其他人咧製造一啲麻煩。
People just could not stand that person.
咁啲人咧係頂佢唔順啦。
And finally, that person himself was somehow decided to leave that community.
咁呢個人就最後咁佢自己決定咧就離開呢個群體啦。
And all the people in the community were so very happy. Finally, this person has left us.
咁其餘嘅人就真係好啦，真係開心啦，佢而家走咗。
Now we can be at peace.
咁我哋就有寧靜嘅生活啦。
But that guru, the teacher, he went after this person and asked him, please come back. We need you. We need you in the community. And pleaded with him.
點知呢一個群體嘅老師咧，就走去要求請求下呢一個離開咗嘅人咧翻嚟，佢就話：我哋呢個群體好需要你啊，你翻嚟啦。
Because he said, without you, they will not be able to really progress in their spiritual learning.
佢話因為冇咗你咧，我哋呢個社群裏邊其他嘅人咧係唔能夠進步噶啦。
His presence made them realize their own blind spots, things that they did not see very clearly.
咁原來呢一個所謂好麻煩嘅人嘅存在咧，係令到其他嘅人咧睇到佢哋其實係有個盲點嘅。
So it is a way of understanding our community and the people, especially those people that we find most difficult, are truly our gifts in that community.
咁我哋就明白到社群裏邊，我哋又見到一啲所謂好麻煩嘅人咧，其實係我哋社群嘅一啲上天賜俾我哋社群嘅禮物嚟。
Because they trigger us and they point out our real weak points in our life.
因為佢哋惹起我哋一啲嘅情緒啦，同埋向我哋指引嘅一啲我哋一啲弱點。
The weak points that we can then see more clearly and pay attention to and make our life really healed of all that.
咁我哋見到呢啲弱點咧，就係我哋知道原來我哋要留意注意呢啲弱點，咁跟住咧我哋就真正可以療癒啦。
So the place of community in living our life of compassion is very vital.
所以喺一個慈悲嘅生活裏邊，社群或者群體係好重要嘅。
So it is not something, communication is something that we do with ourselves, with the community, together with the community.
咁所謂溝通就唔係單係自己同自己溝通，而係一定要同個社群其他嘅人溝通。
And that is the struggle that we have in living this nonviolent communication.
咁呢個就係喺我哋點樣活出呢個非暴力溝通裏邊要努力嘅一個地方。
It is an effort for us to live a life of non-judgmental awareness of each other and allowing the compassion to flow from each other.
呢個係我哋點樣可以去學習點樣學習呢個非判斷嘅生命啦。學習有一個覺醒嘅生命啦，同埋有一個慈悲嘅生命。
So that is why we have so many religions, so many churches, and so many sects that they all try to form a community.
咁呢個就係點解我哋呢個世界上面有咁多宗教啦，有咁多信仰嘅群體啦、社群啦等等，係令我哋學習大家一齊喺個群體裏邊生活。
But unfortunately, when we divide into sects, churches, and religions, we sometimes forget the whole purpose.
咁好不幸地咧，當我哋出現咗一啲唔同嘅教派啊、教會啊等等啦，我哋就唔記得咗我哋成立呢啲教派或者教會或者係崇拜嘅群體原先嘅一啲目標係乜嘢？
And we begin to fight with each other.
咁我哋唔同嘅教派之間咧，就開始去鬥爭啦。
We begin to separate from each other so that we may be identified.
咁我哋就開始同其他嘅派別咧係分離出嚟，等我哋自己能夠突出。
That we fail to see with the eyes of God, as Father Kwan had pointed out.
咁就好似阿Father Kwan講，我哋就係唔能夠好似佢講咧，係用上帝嘅眼睛去睇呢個事物。
To see more clearly and to accept totally.
睇清楚呢啲事物，而係同埋全然咁樣去接受呢啲事物。
So these are three elements that we could pay attention to: communication, compassion, and community.
咁所以剛才提嘅三個元素，呢個慈悲、溝通同埋呢個群體，就係我哋需要留意嘅三個元素。
So it is not any very special method to be alone, but a method to really live in community.
咁我哋要學習嘅唔係一啲點樣能夠獨處嘅一啲好特別嘅方法，而係點樣能夠建立一個真正嘅群體嘅一啲方法。
Learning how to listen to each other, learning how to and learning how to speak to each other.
學習點樣去聆聽同埋同對方講嘢説話。
So in this simple method that Marshall gave to us, he has embedded the whole teachings of compassion.
喺呢個咁簡單嘅方法咧 ，Marshall 就係能夠融合咗慈悲嘅一個佢嘅最大嘅教訓。
And also explains, illuminates the whole purpose of a community and communication.
同埋解釋咗成呢一個社群建立社群同埋溝通嘅佢嗰個目標。
So in today's world, I think it is these three elements that we need to pay attention to.
咁喺今日嘅世界裏邊，我覺得就係呢三樣嘅元素咧，我哋係需要留意嘅。
Compassion, which is natural to all of us.
第一就係我哋生而有之嘅慈悲啦。
And especially pay attention to what is blocking this natural flow of energy that is so ingrained in us.
尤其是係留意呢一個本來我哋有嘅呢一種嘅能量係乜嘢阻礙緊呢一個能量嘅流動啦。
And communication that is helpful for this flow of energy.
咁而溝通係對呢一個能量嘅流動咧係好有幫助嘅。
And also to see how we communicate.
咁睇下我哋點樣能夠真正去溝通。
Because how we communicate will help us either to allow the flow of energy, or it could also block our energy of compassion.
因為溝通如何溝通咧，係佢可以幫我哋去幫助呢一個慈悲嘅能量嘅流動，又或者係障礙呢個慈悲嘅能量嘅流動。
And this way of being present to each other.
咁呢一個能夠同其他人真正咁樣去臨在。
And being present to oneself.
同自己係臨在。
Is a way to build a true community of love.
只有通過同自己同埋他人係真正咁樣臨在，先至可以建立一個社群一個生活嘅方式。
And today, the world that we live in and the situations that we're living through might be called a crisis of these 3 C's.
今日世界嘅狀況，我哋可以稱之為呢3個 C 嘅一個危機。
A crisis of empathy, and a crisis of communication, and a crisis of community.
同理心、溝通同埋社群嘅危機。
So Marshall gave this very simple way of living, a simple way of speaking, and a simple way of listening and being present to each other.
咁 Marshall 咧就係教咗我哋呢個好簡單嘅生活，聆聽，講説話，同埋向自己或者同人哋臨在嘅呢一種生活嘅方式。
Applying these very simple principles of communication.
如果你應用呢一啲好簡單嘅溝通嘅原則嘅話咧
，that he delineates through these 4 steps.
咁佢教我哋呢4個步驟咧，就係點樣應用以上啲原則嘅啲方法。
Could bring us the happiness that we are searching for.
我哋跟隨呢個方法，就會揾到我哋想揾嘅快樂。
And the happiness that we seek in our lives.
我哋想喺我哋嘅生命裏邊尋求嘅快樂。
Thank you.
多謝。